And today our lesson is on chapter 4, cells. And in our textbook, we got an interesting example, so let's take a look.
Who's that? Do you want Dada? Who's that? Who's that? Yeah. What? Who's that? Who's that? Who's that?
So in here, the baby is confused because both of them look alike, okay, to find out who is her daddy is. So in here, we're looking at cells, and cells are basically the basic units of all living things. In here, we consider animals and plants alike, because plants are also living things. Now in here, you see the really long word over there, the unicellular organism, UNI. That word actually is similar to the word in Spanish, UNO, uno. It means one, that's all. So it's one cell organism, that's what it means. So in one of this example would be an amoeba. So in the amoeba, actually it's just one cell. Let's take a look at how it moves. So in here, let's take a look. So you see, this cell is only one cell, and yet you see all different, it looks like hands sticking out different directions. Actually, you can't see there's a brain inside there, and yet it can move and it can eat. That's the next part I want to show you. On this one. So you see the one on top, there's the amoeba, and down in the middle there is his food, maybe her food, I don't know. Its food, okay. So you see it's enclosed inside, and what happened next is, take a look. The material inside want to come out, want to swallow it. How does it exactly know it's food? I'm not sure. See, it's coming out. And that's all I want to show you for this part. And actually, if you got one of these amoeba in your body, there's reported cases in US of deadly consequences. So let's take a look at here.
Tonight, this brain-eating amoeba is being blamed for the death of a North Carolina man. Eddie Gray was swimming at this water park near Fayetteville earlier this month.
We are not closing it because the amoeba that causes this type of illness is naturally occurring in freshwater bodies of water.
The single-celled organism is usually found in shallow freshwater. When it gets hot, the amoeba can cause severe headaches, fever, nausea, and vomiting, which can progress to stiff neck, seizures, and a coma. It's not infectious when the water is swallowed, only when it's forced up the nose during activities such as diving and water skiing.
If you're in warm water, the best thing you can do is not put your head below the water. But if you are doing water sports, you want to make sure water doesn't go up your nose, and that means simply wearing nose plugs.
According to the CDC, the amoeba is rare, but often deadly. In 57 years, there have only been 145 known infections in the U.S., with only 4 survivors. 3 years ago, Sebastian De Leon defied the odds, shocking his family.
We are so thankful that God has given us the miracle.
The CDC says the illness is particularly difficult to treat because it's notorious.
So in here you see the amoeba. If it get into your brain, actually can be having a fatal consequences. So in here, all you need to do is put in the nose plug. The water cannot get into your nose, then that's it. It will stop it from going into your brain, right? Now, after this, cell organism. So what happens if there's more than one? We will look at the next part. The multicellular organism. Multi means that more than one, okay? So it's multiple. And all of you would know the word multiply, right? So it means that some is more than one is multiplying. So more than one cells organism. Animals, plants alike. And for human beings, in here, in one of the body, you would have more than 100 trillion cells. That is 1 trillion, that is 10 to the power 12, meaning there's 12 zeros behind the 1. And then if it's 100 trillion, means that there are 14 zeros. 1 and then 14 zeros follow it. So that's how many cells you have in your body. And so in here, let's take a look at some of the examples we got in the body. So in here, we got the nerve cell from inside your brain all the way down to your toes. There would be a lot of nerve cells. Actually, there is one measurement of a nerve cell from the spinal cord all the way to the foot. That one cell is 1 meter long. That is pretty long for one cell. And the second one is the red blood cell in here. Red blood cells is interesting. It doesn't have a nucleus inside it because it want to carry more oxygens. And you will find out what that means in biology later on. And in here, the next one is the muscle cells. You see it's elongated, meaning it's stretched longer this in the longitudinal way, so that actually that is what the muscle would look like in the fine detail. Now after this, we just have the key point. I have to zoom out, sorry. So I have to go back. In here, the cells are the basic units of living things here. So in here, let's take a look at the basic units of cells. Now we're going to examine the animal cells and the plant cells, those two major kinds of cells in the living things. In here, it just means that we use a really powerful microscope to take picture. Now in here, we got the animal cells from inside your mouth, some fat cells, and the skin cell. The plant cells, you see, it's from the leaf and from different types of plants and from moss as well. So in here, for the animal cell, do you notice something that is in common? What do they have in common? You look at these 3 types of cells in here. You will realize that all of them are irregular shapes. Okay, it contains a dot inside, and the dots are actually highly dense materials, and we call that nucleus, and the DNA stuff inside. Now in here, the plant cells, you see that all 3 of them are green. There's a reason for that. But besides that, what do they have in common? They are regular shape. You see, compare this to the last picture we have for the animals. This one is more regular shapes than the previous one. And the green color actually means that they can have photosynthesis takes place in chloroplasts, that's all. And we'll look at that in a second. So in here, we compare the animal cells to the plant cells. What do they have in common? What is similar? You see, all of them have a clear boundary. Even for the irregularly shaped ones, animals ones, you see that one cell does not mix in with the other cell. You can actually still outline each cell. Okay, so let's take a look at in more details of the animal cells. Now, in here we got a cell membrane of the animal cell. And we draw in like that. And after that, we have cytoplasm. Okay, so it's the material that is inside that cell over there. And next one we have the nucleus, the dot inside there. Okay, let me zoom out so I can have a clear picture of what that is first. No, not this one, this one. Okay, so in here for animal cells, you see that there are these three parts: the cell membranes, the nucleus, and cytoplasm. And in here, that's what it looked like in the real photo. And after taking a look at the animal one, let's take a look at the plant cells. So in here for the plant cells, they also have the cell membranes, nucleus, and cytoplasm. So here are the three that's in common with animal cell. But they have something extra. This one have a cell wall. You see, it's surrounding the cell. We call it cell wall. And besides that, there's a big hole in the middle. We call it vacuole. And also, there's the green stuff for the plants. We call that cytoplasm. Oops, sorry, I'm going to show you where it's pointed at. You see the thing in the on the side there, and compare that to the one in the real photo. So you see, that's where the photosynthesis takes place, in the cytoplasm. Chloroplast, sorry. And in here, let's take a look at some of the functions of the cell membrane first. Now in here, the cell membrane controls the movement of substance, for example water or other minerals. Does it go in or come out of the cell? It controls it. And then there's the nucleus. The nucleus is the genetic material. Most of you would know DNA, you have heard of that word before, and those would be inside the nucleus. And then for the plants, they have a cell wall. What is the function of the cell wall? Actually, it's to protect the cell and also give it the rigid stiffness so that it can stick and can take on its shape, so the flower wouldn't be whittled down if it's without a cell wall. And cytoplasm here, it controls the chemical reaction. For example, the respiration in cells. It's taking in oxygens and breathing out carbon dioxide, for example. And for the plant cells, there's a big hole in there. We call it vacuole. And actually the water and other minerals, starch and other things can flow inside the vacuole from one to another places. And of course, for the plants it would be green because they want to have photosynthesis take place in the cytoplasm. Now, in here, let's think about it. Why are animal cells usually irregular in shape while the plant cells are usually regular in shape? Why are they different? Why did one has a shape, the other one doesn't have the regular shape? What's the reason for that? So in here, we're referring back to the cell wall. You want to have a rigid shape so it doesn't really be bent around in different ways. But for animal cells, we want it to be flexible. It wants to change shape, so it can do other things. And number two, why do plant cells have extra features that are not found in animal cells? So it's referring to the photosynthesis, right? The green stuff that's in the plants is to produce food by carrying out photosynthesis. Now, in here, next key point is to help you summarize what we have talked about. It's quite a few things, I know. For what do they have in common? Animal cells and plant cells. 3 things: the nucleus, cell membrane, and the cytoplasm. And for the plant cells only, what do they have? They have the cell wall and vacuole, the big hole in the middle. And for the green plants, the green stuff is the chloroplast. Now, let's take a look at how we're going to draw this thing in. So in here, if you look at this cell, what is it? There are 2 distinct features. You can look at it and you can tell me that it's a plant cell. What's the reason for that? It's because you can see there's a cell wall surrounding the cell, and also there's a big hole in the middle, vacuole, and it's a telltale sign that it is a plant cell. And of course, the green stuff, the chloroplast there. So it's unique for the plant cell. How about what do they have in common? 3 things. We have the cell membranes, cytoplasm, and the nucleus, the DNA stuff in middle. Okay. And in here, we talk about how to use a microscope. And in chapter 3, we already mentioned how we're going to use the microscope. So I'm going to skip this part. I'm not going to waste time on how to use a microscope. And just want to give you the answer. We can use a microscope to observe cells. And then we will look at the experimental results for experiment 4.1. I'm not going to show you the video. And if you want to, when you come back, we can hopefully still use a microscope if we have time for that. So on page 12, there's the answer for question 9. So if you have a letter P, what will it look like under the microscope? It will look like this. So it's upside down, left hand side will turn into the right hand side, it's inverted. So in here, is it magnified or diminished, meaning shrink, become smaller? So it is magnified, become bigger. And in part B, there's a 9B is missing here. There's 10, 9A, and B. Yeah. So in here, the image is formed in the microscope, upright or inverted. It's inverted. So it's upside down and left change to the right. It's inverted. So when you move an image to the it doesn't work, so I have to show it like this. So in here, if you move the image to your left, where does the image actually move? Actually, it moves to the right. It's going to the opposite direction because of the optical property of the microscope. And if you move the slide towards you, what will happen to the image? It will move away from you, so it's the opposite direction again. And for the image, it is magnified and inverted. So let's take a look at checkpoint 4.2 now. Checkpoint 4.2. So in here, if we have a microscope with the eyepiece of different magnifications and the objective of different magnification as well. So what is the lowest magnification can you get? We just found the lowest one for both is 5 times 4, which give you a 20 times. That's the lowest magnification you can get. And how about the largest? The highest magnification is 15 times 40, so it will give you 600. Okay, not too difficult. And in here, next one will give you a exercise for the letter F. So how would it look like under the microscope? So remember, it's inverted, upside down, left to right. So in here, upside down one only have D. So in here, D is the answer. And just a quick recap on how to use the microscope. And I want to show you the answer on the sequencing. It's A, D, B, E, C. That's all. And we move on to how to make a biological drawing of a cell. So in here, let's see if it works. No, it's not working again. So in here, we need to make it into a different proportion, meaning different size for this one. And then you will need to use a pencil to draw it, because you can erase it and start over again. And the last one, you need to label it clearly with a ruler, and also the lines cannot cross each other. Okay, so it's the basic rules. So let's take a look. So in here we got a cell, and you use one solid line to make it look clear. And in here we don't shade any diagram, because shading is more artistic, but in here we're looking for a biological drawings, so we use dots to represent the material close together. And the last but not least is give the title and the magnifications. So now let's take a look at some of the problem with this drawing on exercise. So in here we got animal cell, ox eye cell. So let's see what's wrong with this picture. So there are 4 mistakes here. See, we can spot the 4 mistakes here. Okay, so you can tell by looking at it, something's wrong with the nucleus already. And you can tell that the lines are shaded, so it's wrong. And the labeling lines cross each other, which cannot happen. And also for the title, what is this cell? It didn't mention it. So in here, you should draw in your textbook this drawing. So you see the cell with the proper labelings, and the inside nucleus there, there's only dots. We don't have any other shading at all. And give a name of this title, okay? So you know what this cell is about. And unfortunately, we cannot do the experiment 4.2 and 4.3. I will show you the answer for the experiment here, okay? So for the experiment 4.2 is an animal cell, okay? So in here, we use a dye to make it easy to see in blue color. And when you return to school, if we have time to use the microscope, and I will show you again how to do that with no air bubbles, and the extra solution are being absorbed by the tissue on the side. And on page 16, you need to draw in this, the cells the animal cells with the proper labels and title. So after that, in the next experiment 4.3, we have the onion cells. So onions is an append, so it would look something like this. So you see the cell wall in here, but this one actually you can't really tell there's the vacuole. Okay, so because it's the dried skin, so it's really hard to see that. So in here with this drawing is fine. Okay, so after this, we're going to talk about the genetic materials, the DNA stuff. Okay, genetic material inside nucleus. And in here, let's take a look. Now, in here, DNA, you're not required, I'm not going to test you how to spell DNA, okay? And in here, you just need to know what DNA is. You take a look at it, that's what it looks like. And at the back of a textbook, there's a DNA model. If you want to try to make it with a piece of paper, go ahead, have fun, and hopefully you can make it. Okay, so let's take a look at it. So in here, we got the different functions of the DNAs and telling the growth and reproductions. Now in here, we got the chromosomes and the DNA. So I think some of you have heard of the name chromosome. Now in here, in the nucleus of cell, there are threads like the chromosomes. Let's see in here. So you see that it looks like X over there. So the X over there actually is the chromosome. Okay. And if you look at in more details, and actually you stretch it out, you'll see the DNA, how it is can be stretched out. And actually there's a story I want to tell you about the DNA, how it was discovered. And actually the scientists who first discovered DNA thought they made a mistake, because this whole scientific community think that there's no way they can think of DNA this way. They thought it's wrong, so they put it away to research for like 10 years, and people start to realize that they were right. So that's a long story behind it, but unfortunately today's lesson we don't have time for that to show you his story. It's pretty interesting actually, and of course they win a Nobel Prize after that, so not bad, eh? Okay, so in here, so you see that it's coiled around, and then that's wrapped around the proteins. And from that, I want to show you. Oh, okay. Yes, there's one more thing about the red blood cell. Inside the red blood cell, it actually does not contain the nucleus. There's no chromosome at all. And the reason for that is because it wants to accommodate more space for carrying oxygen. Okay, so basically the red blood cell doesn't have this DNA makeup inside that each of the red blood cell, because the function of the red blood cell actually is to take oxygen everywhere into your body. Okay, so it doesn't have chromosome in it at all. And also it's worth noticing is that one of these DNA strand is around, one of the chromosome is around 1 micrometer, so it's 10 to the -6 meter, so it's pretty small. It's a little bit bigger than the nanometer, about 3 times bigger than the nanometer, and yet it's small enough so we can still see it under a powerful microscope. Okay, so in here let's take a look at the key point. Okay, so that's the DNA, what it stands for, and in here we've got the chromosomes. It's coiled up with the proteins. Okay, that's all you need to know about the DNA part. And the chromosome in the human body. Okay, so in here the chromosome in the human body, how do we know that one is different from the other one in human beings. Why will it be different? And how can you tell that if it's a boy or a girl? How can you tell what's the difference there? So we need to study how the chromosome works in the body. So let's take a look at this activity, 4.3. So in here, let's take a look at the chromosomes. And you see on the left is the boy and the right is the girl. So you see that the one they actually put a box around it. You see for the male actually has an X and Y there. But for the female actually is both of them are X. Okay, so the reason for the male is a Y is because you think of a X missing a leg basically, so basically it will turn into a Y. So that's why for male is X and Y, for female is X and X. Okay, so in here, how many chromosomes are there in the human bodies? Anybody pay attention? For human body is 46. Okay, 46 chromosomes. So let's take a look at it. So where do you get 46? 23 because it's left and right. So 23 times 2 is 46, that's all. So if we want to pair it up, how many pairs is here? It is 23 pairs. Every one of you have 23 pairs of the chromosome. Now, okay, so let's compare this one, the 23rd pair of chromosome in this box, XY and XX. So you see a difference? And I'll show you the answer here. So in here, the male body cell, the chromosomes are X and Y. However, the female body cells are the XX. One is longer and one is shorter in the chromosome for the male body cells, while there are two long ones in the female body. So basically, you think of it, one is shortened, and that is the male. Okay. And now in here, every cell in the human body have 23 pairs and or 46 chromosomes. There are 22 pairs, the autosomes, and one pair of sex chromosome. So it will tell you it's a boy or girl. Okay. And actually, it's worth noticing is that actually potato or chimpanzee actually have more chromosomes than human beings. They have 48 chromosomes, but humans only have 46 chromosomes. But interesting enough, dogs actually have the most in a short list we have in the textbook. Dogs actually have 78 chromosomes. Why? I'm not sure. I think you have to find out why dogs will have so many chromosomes. But it is worth noticing is that, okay, hold on. Okay, so that is how we divide it, 22 pairs and one pair of the sex chromosome. And from that, that's the reason why there's a boy and a girl, because of the one chromosome that's different. Now in here, the next topic is on the chromosomal disorder, namely the Down syndrome. So in here, in this diagram, something is interesting happening. If you can take a look at it, what's wrong with this picture in here? Okay, 1 second is up. Let's take a look. It's this pair. It's not pair, actually there are 3 of them. So that's why in here, in the chromosome 21 there, there's one extra one there. And that is a problem, because that is where the Down syndrome comes from. We can determine that with the current technology we have. Okay, and I want to show you one more part on the Down syndrome. So basically, Down syndrome would have the number 21 there. You see that there are 3 of them, so there's a problem there. And in here, there's a lot of detecting that is going on with the genetic testing being done. One of it is really famous, is Johns Hopkins, and there's medical schools and there's the best medical schools, and I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that Johns Hopkins is one of the best leading institutes in the world. So let's take a look at what she has to say.
So for instance, the one we use at Hopkins has 1 million probes, starting from the top of chromosome 1 and ending at the bottom of the Y chromosome if you have one, or the bottom of the X if you don't have one. And so you can imagine we can see much smaller missing, or we can't see them, we can detect much smaller or missing or extra pieces. And so we have many more disorders that we've recognized because of chromosome, what are called chromosome microdeletions or chromosome microduplications. Okay. And initially when we started doing this test, we got all kinds of results that we had absolutely no idea what they meant. You know, is this real? Is it important? Is it not important? Once we've probably done 20,000, 25,000 people, maybe even more, have been done by this method, both normal and people with problems. And once you have enough people, you can start statistically sorting out, you know, we see this in so many normal people, this is normal. This is not a disease-causing variation. Or we only see this in people with problems. This must be causative. 2 normal people, 2 people without disease, can have as much as 12 million base pair variation in their DNA because of extra and missing pieces. So that's normal variation, 12 million base pairs, a whole lot.
Okay, so there's a lot more research is being done in this area. If you're interested in, you can study biology and biochemistry and biotechnology. At this point, there's a lot more interesting research is going on. Okay, so in here, I want to take up the answers for the key point here. So each human body cells have 23 pairs of chromosomes, okay? And only 1 pair is the sex chromosome. And in the checkpoint 4.3, in here, okay, in here, the checkpoint 4.3, chromosome, okay, you know what that is. And the next part, DNA is the genetic materials, okay? And the sex chromosome is the one determined is it a boy or girl. And the next one is the autosomes, okay? So 22 pairs of them. And in here, which of the following represents sex chromosome of a normal female? Okay, so in here we know that it cannot be B or D. If you got 3 of them, it's Down syndrome already, so it cannot be right. So in here, it's either answer A or C. So in here, A or C, so remember that the female ones actually should be the longer one than the male one. So in here is X and X, so it's answer C. Okay? Now in here is the last topic we will cover today, and let's see, we only have 1 minute left, so I have to hurry up a little bit. So in here we got the cell divisions. Okay, we've seen the so I'm going to show you some videos, but we run out of time. And you start with 1 cell and start to divide it into nucleus into 2, and then basically it was separated, and then 2 new cells we call it daughter cells are formed. Okay, so they're identical copy of each other. So in here it will get bigger, and then it will start to repeat the process of division again, and basically just keep on increasing in size. Okay, and in here, and the same thing happens unfortunately with the cancer cell. Cancer cell actually will just keep on increasing in sheer number, and at the end it will just basically swallow her, the whole body part, and then causing other problems as well. And in here, let's take up the key point. The cells can undergo cell divisions to form new cells, and the living part grows by increasing the number and size of the cells. Okay, and that's the end of our first lesson in Unit 4. And when you return to school, we can talk about 4.2. Okay.